Hello and welcome to Disaster Empire. I am Ashley Gooseman, and you are at the channel that talks to thought leaders and innovators in resilience. And I am super excited to have Jamie Mills with me here today from BlackBerry AtHoc to talk about their product. So before we get into it, I do want to let Jamie talk to you about his background, but excited to share that we're going to be talking about both the ad hoc alert messaging and mass notification product, and a little bit about cybersecurity too. So Jamie, thank you so much for coming on the program. Really excited to have you here today. And can you share a little bit about your background for those who haven't met you yet?
Yeah, no problem, Ashley. Thank you for taking the time and having me on the podcast today. So Jamie Mills, I've been in the mobile messaging, mobile ecosystem for the better half of 20 plus years. As I was telling you, and just as we were chatting in the beginning, it all started for me installing cell phones in cars. So you can imagine the journey that I've been on just from that perspective. And I love technology. And in the last couple of years, I've progressed into critical event management, which is, in my opinion, a culmination of emergency communication and a mission-based opportunity, which you don't get many of those in a lifetime. And so it worked out and landed here at BlackBerry, and couldn't be more happy to be doing the things I'm doing from an ad hoc channel building perspective. And look forward to our conversation today very much. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And hey, want to talk more about BlackBerry, but let's get into the products a little bit in terms of services. And so I know BlackBerry is providing a platform for cybersecurity services, as well as, and I really like the term that you use, crisis communication. You know, a lot of the professionals in the industry, we talk about mass notification or alert systems, but I really like that crisis communications, crisis management, incident management platform, perspective. So can you talk to us more about what those services are, what those platforms are all about, and really what they provide to customers?
Yeah, no problem. I think if I think about, well, first off, you touched on a great thing, and that is the cybersecurity aspect mixed with a critical event management platform. So if I think about critical events in cyber, it's all about speed, how fast you can resolve issues. And that takes a cutting edge platform that's purpose built to do this, right? Speed is the essence. Speed saves lives. Speed identifies issues faster, which means resolution and getting back to business as usual. So there's three things that I would say resonate the most for me when it comes to the platform, or a combination of the services with the platform. Number one is security. BlackBerry started as a security company back when we were RIM, with the little tiny pager, yellow backlit device that everybody swooned over and governments flocked to because it was deemed the most secure of all of it. So you got to secure the information. In this day and age, getting people's information with cybersecurity is one of the utmost things that people are trying to get, because there's a value to it. So you got to protect your customers' data first and foremost, right? It's got to be a secure experience. Two is, as I just touched on, is scale. At BlackBerry, we see ourselves as one of the only providers that have an at-scale CEM platform and a cyber platform all rolled into one, with a highly secure, reliable network and platform set of services we have. And then to tie that off, it's been battle tested. If we look at the roster of customers that we have, these are highly complex, highly reliable, highly secure. You name the term and phraseology, and we have to perform on that, and achieve certifications that are astronomically hard to get, but at the same time gives our customers the warm and fuzzy, so to speak, that you need. So it's again, security, scale, and battle tested, and that combination of those two things really sets us apart and gives our customers a unique advantage as far as trying to accelerate, time to understand what's going on, understand the event, and try to recover as quickly as you can.
Jamie, thank you so much for that, and really highlighting the fact that you've created an all-in-one product, right?
Yeah.
Because in my experience, talking to peers, so many large organizations, particularly, are are challenged, right? They're
Yeah.
siloed, just the nature, right, of being a very large company or business or agency.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard at times, I think, to get that porousness across the organization and get folks talking to each other and working together, even if they want to, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's just challenging because you have different focuses. So I really like the lean forward from AtHoc and bringing all of that together and really creating that environment for the organization to work across disciplines for that common goal of building resilience. So
Yep.
on that note, really my audience, a lot of folks are really thinking about how can I build resilience? How can I boost the resilience in the organization if I've got that started? And so tell me a little bit in terms of AtHoc and the product right now. How do you help people to do that? How do you help companies to build that resilience and maintain it?
Yeah, no, Ashley, thank you. I'm going to sum it up in one sentence, and that is our platform protects the things that matter the most. So from an enterprise perspective, that can be an executive, that could be buildings, supply chains, hardware, software, computers. Sky's the limit, as long as we can protect that. And then also brand reputation. That's another thing that's important, across the board. So, if you think about it that way, I'll give you a little more insight to what I mean by that. So again, just, our platform protects the things that matter the most. So our software accelerates that awareness. It helps communications. It resolves incidents globally. It's not like this is just a US-centric thing. This can work in any piece of landmass across the globe. And I think the other thing that's important, it ensures teams are prepared before trouble strikes. I always equate it to going on offense than just playing defense. Anybody can kind of play defense, but if you get ahead of it, then it's a different story. And then you gather that with real-time intelligence, curated real-time intelligence, and communicate immediately to ensure that. Because again, it's all about timing, right? The faster you can identify problems and get the right people involved sooner to collaborate and get things done, or to reach out to local authorities or law enforcement or government or whatever the case may be, or even other local businesses, as a potential impact to their business as well, it really becomes important, and so that's what boosting resilience and or reducing risk has really meant to our customers. That one sentence has really resonated with a lot of our customers. It just paints a clear picture, so simple to understand. And I'm sure we'll get into some other examples I'd be happy to give too of what that means in an event type situation, how the whole process works. But yeah, no, that's our view on that.
Jamie, thank you so much for that. And, I'm just highlighting something that you were sharing around that strategic aspect, getting a step ahead. So really in the industry right now, and this is yay for the risk managers out there, I'm sure they're cheering, but, we're really leaning
right.
into understanding that risk and mitigating that risk and limiting exposure for businesses across the board, for the organization as a whole. So I think that is so important that you guys are thinking about that and really helping your customers to get that kind of jump ahead. Because to me, when I think of it from a crisis management perspective, it's so much about horizon scanning, doing that on an ongoing basis, doing that risk mapping. So any tools that are out there, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of the benefits of AtHoc in a little bit, but any tool that's going to help me in that space and then to respond quickly is a huge plus in my book. But hey, I want to ask you before we dive in a little deeper, I ask all of my guests, what does resilience mean to you? Because so many in the industry right now, it's the buzzword, right? It is the big term, but all of us have, I think, a slightly different take on it. And you can think of it from the regulatory perspective in the UK and rolling out in Australia and India and I think Ireland now. But, we all think about it a little bit differently. So from your perspective, from BlackBerry's perspective, how are you guys looking at resilience?
I touched on this a second ago. To me, it's the enterprise's ability to go on offense than just play defense. It's not, if it's going to happen, it's a win. And so in a highly resilient environment, you prepare to face challenges that are inevitable. It's just cyber attacks, network outages, environmental challenges, civil unrest, natural disasters. I mean, you go on and on and on and on. And you always think that, it's not going to happen. And if it does, then we'll just deal with it. But you got to plan for something that's almost inevitable in this day and age. It's just the way the world has changed to. So, going on offense and preparing for that is one thing. But then when it happens and it doesn't go as quite well as you planned, is being able to overcome, adapt, and recover quickly. So being nimble, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then what all of this doesn't exist if you don't include this one most important thing, and that's your people. And creating a mentality that says we are going to be resilient no matter what you throw at us.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spirit. It's a culture. It's a culture. I think is the right phrase I'm thinking about. Is that if you create that environment and it matters to everybody, and you take personal pride in it, and that becomes something that everybody just invests in heavily, then the other things fall into place. It just becomes part of the mission, right? Going back to a mission-based company, and the companies that do it well. That's how I see it. Offense over defense, and being prepared mentally and getting your troops, so to speak, behind the mission, and having everybody attack it in the same spirit.
Absolutely. And I think with the data out there, obviously, if you're looking from a risk perspective, impact perspective, all of the trends are showing the rise in cyber attacks. I think that's news to anyone listening in. But, also looking at the data on natural disasters, for example, those, the cadence, the veracity, it's just sped up, and it's, much more impactful. Not that it hasn't been impactful in the past, but it's really increasing, and we're seeing more and more of those, and the cost, right, of events overall is astronomical to my mind. In human lives, right, and resources, and to communities. So I know that AtHoc is definitely a great partner with many government agencies, especially here in the U.S. That's a lot of bulk of your customer base. And so can you tell me a little bit about, why they chose you and why they're feeling confident in working with you? What are the benefits of the product that really drove them in? Because I know they need easy, they need efficient, they need quick, they need, reliable partners in this space.
Yeah. Combination of things. If I think back to what the platform was originally, was more of just an alerting platform, right? And then we sought out, as the federal government, as one of our key target verticals. We were going to go just dominate the best that we could, and so we built a platform around the requirements that those entities had. So we wanted to be a certified central trusted platform by many branches of the government, and that obviously includes public safety, right? So we did that. We went through and did a lot of difficult certifications, both at a state and federal level, that very few have at that. And leveraging our security heritage was obviously part of the formula, because we got that right, and that's where that was our first foray into a bigger customer base way back. And the other thing we found was reliability. That was the thing that you create and you plan for, and you build a multi-9, reliability type platform. And so we did that. I think what we also did really well is we understood what our customers needed, what they would get the most out of, and what they did. So between a combination of all those things, and also leveraging lack of technology and outdated technology and workarounds and piecemeal solutions and other things that they were seeing out in the marketplace, we took a best of class approach, best practices, went through the time and spent the energy to get the certifications necessary and build that thing out. And before you know it, a very large majority of the U.S. federal government and a lot of state and local governments have become rock solid customers of ours, which we obviously appreciate their business, and really where we form the bedrock of what we've done at AtHoc so far, as we start to pivot into enterprise and other sectors as well over the last few years.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that evolution. And I know I wrote in my blog recently, so I'll link that down below for those who haven't caught it yet. But to give an insider's view into the product, and I think that's a lot of what my peers are looking for out there, is more in depth. So I know it's a little bit hard to do in this forum, but can you walk us through what are some of the best features of AtHoc right now, and what would a customer's experience be like if they were logging into the product or looking to use it today?
Some of the key features that we have, I would say, certainly is the ability to collect data from disparate sources, just ingestion of data as a whole. It's something that, there's so much data these days floating through the ether. We're able to do that really seamlessly. We have an open API architecture, so that's something that we can ingest it very easily. We can also integrate into other sources in a very, very simple and scalable manner. That's a big difference. We try to accelerate awareness, accelerate communications, and do that on a global scale. What it's also done, just hammering in that point or honing on that point, is it gives us the ability to bidirectionally talk to, give the enterprise the ability to talk to their people, fulfill duty of care, give them the ability to audit that communication cycle and we call them modalities. So whether it be SMS or phone calls or emails or push notification or fax, yes, I even said fax, that, has all these different ways to not only alert people, but give feedback back. So from an app perspective, we also support an app that gives folks the ability to check in and check out of certain zones that are geo-fenced. There's just an abundance of tools out there that we give our customers, and again, all wrapped around a highly secure, highly reliable network. Those are the things that we see. So from police, from law enforcement, to first responder, to EMS, to enterprise, to name the vertical, everybody has benefited and, more importantly, found the value of what we do for some of those, and then I'll just throw one more in there, just as a bonus round type answer, is again, the combination of cyber and CEM all wrapped into one.
Yeah,
that's one of its kind, unique setup we have, and so when you're able to do that, again, offense over defense. We prevent things from happening, and then if it does, we help you recover faster, right? And just keeping your people safe and your business running. That to me is some of the key features that we have, and obviously I touched about reliability and 4.9s and all that kind of stuff. So it's those are the ones I think we're the most proud of at this point as we evolve.
Let's dive a little bit deeper into that, because you've stressed several times the benefit of having that cyber incident management aspects, what I would call, more kind of the operational crisis management, if you will.
Yeah.
How does the platform achieve that synthesis and made that a place where what sometimes are fairly disparate, right, activities really take place in a way that benefits an organization?
Yeah. I'm not going to go into particular product names because no one really has a reference to that. But, the way we name our services, it just tells a great story.
You can name drop.
Yeah, well, there's 5 modules of the platform, and so what's interesting, and I'll give you an example, and I think this is one of the questions we were going to talk about, but I'm going to fast forward a bit, just keep everybody on their toes, I guess, here a bit, is, if I think about, policing and law enforcement, one of the customers that we are so excited to be not only part of their provide them a solution, but one of the marquee customers of the Greater Manchester Police in the UK. And what's interesting about their use cases is that we were able to take and provide them a service that allowed them to reach out to, in times of where they need more support or more officers that are either off duty or sworn former police officers or gun carrying sworn citizens or whatever the case may be. It used to be like this long list of Excel and call outs. Okay, I'll call number 1, the number 2. So you can imagine how long that takes. So in the time of crisis, you need to automate, right? You need to be able to do that. Plus, you also need to be able to reach other groups. So fire, EMS, rescue, local government, internal communications, provincial communications, the community, all these things. So when you can take what would normally take about 60 minutes to round everything up, and you can compress that down to sub 10 minutes, that's really providing something for your customer, right? And solving not only their internal, obstacles or challenges they want to overcome, but it directly reflects really well for them as they serve the community as well, right? Because get fired to a building sooner, less likely to have a complete loss. It all adds up. Again, it goes back to speed. I know I'm repeating, terminology, but it just is so appropriate given the nature of what we're talking about here.
Well, hey, let me kind of dive into another aspect I'd love you to talk about, because, we've talked about the government use, right? And a lot of the focus of that is on life safety, right? And getting alerts out to community members and creating those linkages, as you were saying, between law enforcement and other first responders and support groups. But then I want to look at it too and talk to you about the corporate perspective, right? Because from a corporate perspective, yes, you want to look at the safety of your employees. You want to be able to communicate, but you're also looking at business recovery. You're looking at protecting assets. It's a little bit of a different focus, a bit more internal, communicating with key stakeholders. So how does the product help to do that as well?
Well, to me, it goes back to sharing information across disparate groups easily. That's number one. So you might have the CISO that looks at certain parts of the organization from a security perspective. You may have an IT manager. You may have a director of security. You may have a business continuity group. All companies are made up differently when it comes to this. But what we found is so many have different solutions or different ways to communicate. So being able to provide a common communication platform in a disparate environment is of the utmost importance. So we do that. So now that you've allowed me to name drop parts of the platform, we've got two modules that are collect and connect, right? Because if you think about the journey, you're going to alert, you're going to account for things that you care about the most, you're going to collect data, then you're going to connect them with the departments that need to know that information. So I'll give you an example. In the case of civil unrest, you've got a hybrid workforce. You've got people at home, you got people in a corporate building. And so if a civil unrest event happens, then our platform will jump in and say, okay, civil unrest has been detected. I'm going to reach out to security and say, hey, lock the doors and then alert everybody to shelter in place. And then I'm going to poll everybody to make sure everything's okay. I'm also going to tell the people that are remote not to come into the building that day. Oh, and by the way, there's a person with a delivery that's coming that I got to warn them. And I also got to tell the executives what's going on because they might be the ones, in command and control situation. You can see the chaos map happening, right? Yeah. So being able to, you've been there, done that, I'm sure. Yeah. So, if you can take that, a lot of disparate and separate activities, and have a central platform that does all that, automated, and or the operators that manage the platform can do that in a very simple and efficient way, then everybody's in the know. It just makes it so much easier to handle that. And then when the icing on the cake is, afterwards, post-event, the system collects all that information. So you can see what you did well. You can see where you needed to improve. You can see things, maybe just didn't go well, or you might not have thought of. It just helps that it's in one nice wrapper, very easy to consume. And again, just going back to what I first said, it's that collect and connect, I think, is the most important parts. Is you got to get, I think that whether the thing goes right or not, depending on what the outcome is, and you've got to reach out to different stakeholders that may communicate in different ways, So we also span multiple types of software that you can integrate with, a ServiceNow or others like that, or other. There's so many I can just go on and on.
Dropping if you come to
I'm
mind.
not wearing a ServiceNow t-shirt, but we are fans of this. We did integrate because it's a very common platform, just as an example. But I think for us, integrating into disparate platforms and providing that expertise and that linkage to our customers, whether you're in the enterprise sector or public safety or government, or no matter what the vertical is, we do that in a very fast, efficient, and easy way for our customers to consume and use.
Great. I think for my audience just to know, right, that capability there is always something that they're interested in.
Yeah.
Who have you worked with that has been a successful partnership, or do you have the capability? And I did want to stress something for the audience too, which please fact check me if I'm not saying this correctly, but what I'm thinking of it for Mind is even though we keep saying it's easy, we keep saying, it's simple, but it's not simplistic. So I just wanted to stress that to the audience because, I can only imagine the development that goes behind the scene to be able to provide that easy to use view, but that everything that I was seeing, you can get what you want to get done in a way that for the user, right? And we understand that in crisis, people's cognition goes down, right? Yeah. They remember their training. So that's a key important piece, but they may not remember everything exactly. So, having that muscle memory, if you will, and having that ease of use in a platform is highly unusual. And that's everything that I was seeing in my interactions with the product so far. So, kudos to you and to all of the team for really working to make that happen, because from my, experience and not being an IT guru, it's not, I can see it's not easy. I know a little bit, enough to be a little bit dangerous. But that's what I'm seeing from my perspective. And that's a tall order, right? Like you said, taking all that feedback from your customers and delivering on that. Yeah. I can only imagine the man hours and the sweat.
Yeah, it's not a couple lines of code. That's for sure. Yeah. And what the way we kind of I've said to so many of our customers is, it replaces the 3-ring binder that hasn't been touched in 8 years or updated. It allows you
the emergency tree.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You have to think less, and more automation just does. And then that way, you don't have to remember as much of what buttons hit and all that. I think our interface is just, the GUI is just, it flows well, and it's easy to consume, and it's not, there's nothing simple. It's highly complex on the back end, but it comes out in the front of just, oh, okay, I can just follow a logical order from top to bottom and launch these things, so it's those are great points you made.
Great. I just want to make sure that people understood that. So, hey, I also know you've given a few examples already, but can you speak to more some successes, some wins for the product in terms of events that customers have handled and have been great outcomes for them? Love to hear some of that, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, no, I'll give you a couple. So, we talked about cybersecurity in the beginning. So from an incident response, allowing, just organizations communicate when networks are down. So we look at it as we're a great off-network communications backup. We've heard companies say, oh, we're just going to spin up some Gmail accounts, and we'll do that. And, when chaos hits, it never works. Or if you can't get on the internet or those things, so a redundant off-network, completely independent platform like we have becomes parallel, or paramount rather in its importance. And so, if a security alert is detected and teams can use AtHoc for group chat or clarify they want to respond, or how the stakeholders want to hear, or after the team members review the log and debrief, it's a backup system, right? And again, that's even more important with an easy user experience, because you might not use it as much, but in that time, it's critical that you get there. Right. I mentioned this earlier, natural disasters, or actually, I mentioned civil unrest, but also we'll talk about natural disasters. Rather, unfortunately, for whatever reason, there's lots of reasons out there, I'm sure, but the weather and just natural disasters in general have increased, and so the number each year is going up. So it becomes even more important to go on offense. Give yourself a resilience head start, so to speak. And so again, a platform that can monitor that and track storms and alert local governments and enable them to pull all necessary precautions in place before weather events happen. So getting people to safety, moving inventory from one location to a non-weather potentially impacted area. It's just Department of Defense, emergency managers, lots of Department of Defense uses our services to notify service members or civilians or contractors and families when there's all type of disaster, tornadoes, wildfires, tsunamis. I mean, just kind of sad to even talk about all these bad things that seem to be happening, but and also just including issue shelter in place and evacuation. I mean, the weather is like anything; it's so dynamic. You got to have a tool that gives you the ability to either be more dynamic or just outrace, get ahead of it as much as you can. And I'll also just, violence and crime, since some of our largest customers are law enforcement agencies across the globe. Situational awareness when in law enforcement is paramount in two different motions. Number one is if you've got a high crime area or a crime occurs and you understand where those officers are in comparison to where the crime or event is happening, you can dispatch them faster. They can get people help or get the situation under control, as well as the other one is keeping the police officer safe, right? Because you might be able to track where the car is, but if they're out on foot, doing whatever, they have to do to make a situation better, then ensuring their own safety and letting them know where other bad things could be, whether you're tied into closed circuit TVs or, just monitors in general in other stores or Ring devices, or whatever the case may be. It also gives them situational awareness to keep their own safety levels, at what they need. So, there's just tons of different, healthcare, emergency preparedness, oil and gas, and I could go on and on and on to different verticals. But, I think those are the ones from a cyber, law enforcement, and or natural disasters. Those just seem to really resonate and show the value of what we do.
Absolutely. And Jamie, thank you so much for sharing that piece around cyber, because I think obviously the cyber teams are thinking about that. It may not be as thought about widely by others, but having that redundant place, right, that safe space to go when you need to, when bad actors are operating. And I think that's the reality, right? We all need to consider that organizations will be impacted at some level, right? Because it's definitely a crime of opportunity.
Yes.
And no company as good as our tech people are, so no disparagement to them, but it's, the bad actors are innovating all of the time, and they're working to get around, all of the defenses that we put into place. And that's where I think the offense that you're talking about is so important in terms of resilience. And a key aspect is, we all have to expect that we're going to fall down, right, from an incident or crisis at some point. And so that's what resilience to me is all about, is really what are those tools, what are those structures, frameworks that we put in place that help us to get back up quickly and thrive, right, and continue on with whatever it is that we're doing.
Right.
And I think you talk about some of the key aspect, and that is the protection of lives as well. So such an important piece, and to have tools out there today, right? Because I do remember the old emergency tree days, and time is of the essence, and, making those calls to make those calls, and other people then are unable to make calls. And, it's the game of telephone too. And then you're always wondering if the message that you originally started with is being relayed in the same way when it's trying to get to that person in need, or that you're trying to warn and alert. So, yay for the mass notification systems out there, right, altogether. But to see this level of sophistication that's really leapt forward in the past few years, and to see a product like this, I mean, obviously BlackBerry was, key in this space for a variety of reasons, in communications, regardless, that's the legacy of the company. And then to see platforms like this really come to the fore and see that shift. It's very exciting for me. So again, thank you to your team. So I want to ask you, is there anything that you really want to share with the audience so far that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about?
Covered on a lot of pieces so far. I think the last thing I would say is just what's ahead. What's the future of where we're going. And there's a couple different, 2 or 3 different things I'll just touch on briefly. First off, we're going to continue to lean into critical event management. We're gonna lean into that pretty hard, and the evolution of that is threat intelligence, that data. Being able to ingest public, private feeds, analyze them, display them on the platform easily, show them on a map as it relates to asset versus critical event intersecting. Sharing pictures, sharing video, sharing, as we've all become with our devices, field reporters in a sense, being able to help the enterprise or law enforcement or whatever sector you're talking about decipher fact from fiction. What I mean by that is, with a lot of social media, people say things that may not be accurate, or maybe not have a full view of something, and so a lot of times companies or law enforcement or whatever group spends time figuring out what's fact from fiction. If you enable those bodies to take action immediately, then and have the tools to do that with their own enterprise communication devices or whatever they're given, then you can do that real time, and it helps you decipher that faster, right? So
Absolutely.
That's a big one. Our customers have also asked for bespoke and curated information about situations, which it directly relates to what I just said. You got to know fact from fiction, and getting that from authoritative sources combined with analytics just provide a wide range, and then having a wide range of threat types, from cyber attacks or criminal activity or service disruptions or geolocation information. All those things help mitigate and reduce that time. So that's an important picture. All while you wrap that in a common operating picture, right? That it's got to be all there.
Yeah.
Secondly, enterprise and public safety. I mean, this is where enterprise, public safety, and cyber. No surprise, we're going to continue to lean into that. So we support some of the largest and most complex organizations for CEM out there today. And again, it's part of our core DNA, right? And so, keep investing in strong security, keep investing in privacy, and supercharging the ability to support the enterprise by introducing, a site-level instance of our solution, while also providing GSOC and an HQ-type view for all incident responses. We're going to continue to, lean forward in public safety. You touched on them earlier. There's a lot of regulations out there in the EU around public safety, which leverage our technologies here, like IPAWS, and we, location-based SMS. Yep. We're going to continue to increase our participation in public safety in the EU and other areas of interest for us. You touched on Australia and India and a few others. That's within our DNA. We want to make sure we have that. And then lastly, cyber. It's becoming more and more important every day. From our perspective, having, again, that combined entity of platform is super important, and just supporting that also even down to integrations like ServiceNow, or having a unified endpoint management system, which is also a legacy service that we have, because I've read almost one of the first line of defenses is securing those devices that now may not be a corporate, issued device. You've got sensitive data in your employees' hands that might not have been secure. You got to secure that as well, and Absolutely. So, we're also looking at cyber ops, and we'll be making, I think, some product announcements later this year to increase our cyber ops response times and lower two of the most important acronyms, because we all love our acronyms, right? And that's MTTK and MTTR, which is mean time to know and mean time to repair. And to translate that, the faster you can know what's going on, the sooner you can repair it, you protect the people and the brand and your reputation and all that.
Thank you so much for sharing that and giving us a little glimpse of what's ahead in the product space too. So, keep us informed, and we'll help to spread the word on this end.
Sure.
But hey, as we wrap up today, can you share a fun fact with the audience for folks?
Yeah, let's see. Fun fact of the day. I might not look like it now, but I was much younger. I'll put it that way. I was a big BMX freestyler. Oh, wow. Competed in competitions, sponsored by bike companies and bike shops, and I just look at that. Had long flowing hair, which is not the case these days, but enjoyed that. And then, current fun fact is I've got a wife of, 28 years. I better get this one right. And four great kids that are there and with us, and college and working and everything else. So proud husband, proud father, and really appreciate your time today. That's about as many fun facts as I can spit out.
Those are great ones.
Right.
No worries. I'm always surprised at what comes out of my guest's mouth. So I had no idea.
Yeah, there you go.
So excellent. Thank you so much for talking with us today. Really great to hear about what you're up to and really what makes this product great. I know that people will be interested in reaching out to you. So how can they, if they want to get a demo or want to learn more about AtHoc and work with you guys at BlackBerry, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, great question. A couple ways. So one, I'll point everybody to the BlackBerry.com site. And if you want to look at partners, our partner section, we have a whole thing on AtHoc partnership and becoming a partner in our environment. We have a very robust partner network here at BlackBerry from all of our product sets. And the other way is good old-fashioned email, which is jamills@blackberry.com. You'll get a hold of me, and we'll figure out what we need to do to either solve a problem or partner together, or whatever the motion is. We'll figure it out and help our customers gladly.
Excellent. Make sure to link all of that in the comments section below for people, so they don't have to write it down or remember it.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to thank the audience for being with us here and learning more and listening in. I hope this is always a great learning experience and a value to you. And Jamie, I want to thank you so much for coming on the channel and sharing your enthusiasm and giving us a deeper dive and glimpse into the product. And this is always, helpful for all of us out there as we're trying to learn more about what's going to be the right fit for our organization and really pursue that. But this is great, great genesis in terms
Great.
of learning more, and also link to the blog that I wrote recently in case folks had not seen that already. It'll give you some more in-depth details, and hopefully we'll be able to share more in the future.
Sounds great. Thank you again, Ashley. I really appreciate it. It's a great time.
Great. Thank you. And please, everyone there, like and subscribe because it helps to grow the channel. Have a great night, everybody.